So this is the first time in the history of Pastor Bob's Coffee Break, and by history I mean, well, 3 months now, that I've included somebody else in this podcast. If you've watched our Odd Couple podcast, you already know who this guy is. If you haven't, what? We do a podcast called The Odd Couple.
Yes.
And I'm going to introduce this guy to you, and we're going to hear his story today. And you know, this is the last day of the month. We've been talking about dream big. God is always dreaming bigger. And again, if you'd like to have that poster, we'll send it to you digitally. If you don't have a printer, well, I'll send you the poster. You can have it if you live in the United States, and send it right here. But we're going to talk about this, dream big, and I want to talk about dreaming big from your perspective, James.
All right.
Good stuff coming up next on Pastor Bob's Coffee Break. All right, I have this great friend. James and I have been good friends for a while, and we are an odd couple. Not just because how we look, but we're just odd.
It's odd, man. Hey.
James is the police chief in the city that we're sitting in right now. And James, you never expected to be a chief of police when you were growing up. That wasn't one of your aspirations.
No, it wasn't one of my aspirations. Chief of police, not even police.
Yeah.
Let alone chief of police.
Now, but you had a time in your life when the police would have been the person you were running from.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. And,
So, James, we've been talking about the dream big, and it's a quote from my dad. And I heard this, I think I told you this a little bit ago, I probably heard this 1,000 times growing up. You know, going for your dreams, realizing what God is putting in your heart.
Sure.
And then being able to dream big, and then realizing that God is always dreaming bigger. How big is your dream? Is it big enough yet? No. Yeah.
He's always dreaming bigger and have things planned that are bigger than what we
Yes.
can even dream. And sometimes
Yes.
we think we're dreaming big, but God's desire and
Always.
plan for our lives are
Yes.
so
Always
much
more.
Yeah, so much more.
James, there have been times in your life, I'm sure, especially growing up, you came from, well, as you said, you didn't grow up in the best of surroundings.
Correct.
And dream big. There are people in the same situation that are watching this right now who feel like they're stuck in a situation that they'll never get out of. There's very little hope. There's very little they can do. You probably were in that situation at one time.
Sure, we, coming from our mom, I was born to a 16-year-old mother.
Yes.
And to make a long story short, just going through things, there were struggles in our life. When we talk about the welfare and different things like that, the system, there were times when we were trying to figure out, man, what we were going to eat, and we lived in the project area in Nashville, one of the housing project areas, and to make a long story short, things happened, and even my mom took her life when I was 11 and a half years old. And so those struggles and dynamics of, they go along with, especially with a kid. And there's myself, my brother, and my sister, which at the time was 7 months old. But, we go through, and so when you talk about dreaming and just the lifestyle that, man, we got into a lot of other things in life. Got into some crazy things. I just give other viewers one thing. I was drinking, man. Went into the Navy, and by the time I come out of the Navy, man, I was drinking from morning to night. Well, first thing I did when I woke up, last thing I did when I went to bed, and as though they could change in some kind of way, I could drink my problems away, but you can't do it.
Yeah.
And so going through that, again, in that time, understand that policing is not on my mind.
Yes.
Not even
Probably
on
the
my mind.
furthest
The
thing.
furthest
on
thing
your
on my mind,
Yeah.
like you said, running from the police was on my mind. Eluding the police was on my mind, but not a career in law enforcement. And to bring forward, I know that when you surrender your life to Christ, and when I did that, I do know what the scripture says, that if you walk upright, no good thing will I withhold from you.
That's
And
rich.
so,
yes. Yes.
when your life is like that, someone saw something in me and recruited me into the law enforcement. Because even when we moved here to the city, my wife and I still, policing, I didn't think about it. It wasn't nothing that I had really aspirations of being, but someone else saw something and saw the God in me, and said that you would make a good officer, and let's talk to the chief about getting you on. And through prayer and talking with my wife and everything that came about and started from a communications or dispatch, as you may know, and God just continued to elevate, because it is God in His Word that says He promotes.
Yes.
And He elevates.
That's right.
Yes. So
James, you didn't have those aspirations partly because I think when we're in a situation where we feel boxed in, we're afraid to dream big.
Sure. And then you hear, especially, and this is why it's so important for words mean something. Some people say, well, it doesn't matter. Words, it don't matter what you say. Words matter. And
A
so
lot, yes.
when you're telling, I heard as a youth growing up, you're not going to be nothing. You're not going to be everything. You're not going to amount to anything, and those type of things. And so,
And you believe it.
and you believe that.
Yeah.
Afterward, you keep getting that spoken over your life and spoken to you. At the time, just like when I was doing all the drinking and got into crazy things, I said, man, in my mind, there was something in the back of my mind saying, hey, this is what they expect anyway. So I'm not letting down. I'm not surprising anybody. I'm not letting anybody down, because this is what they expect.
And probably a lot of people around you were coping with things in the same way.
In the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we had, moving forward, I mean, God just blessed, man. And it didn't happen until I turned to Him
Yeah.
completely. And God did a work. And again, He just elevated me from level to level. And now the chief of police in a city, and I will say in a city that people said would never have a man of color as a chief of police. So,
When I moved here, it was the good old boy network.
yeah, and so, it's
Yeah.
in spite of that, God, it's not about what men say, it's the plan that God has that
Yes.
that ultimately matters.
Absolutely. And that's exciting, isn't it?
It is.
James, what would you say to somebody who is afraid to dream? Because that is a big deal.
It is.
There's that fear. What if I dream big and nothing happens? And again, first of all, those dreams that we dream are put there from God.
Yeah.
Not every dream, but we recognize the ones that He's putting there.
Sure.
They become our passion. They become our direction. We read the Word and they jump out the page at us. There's some things that you just feel compelled with and are afraid sometimes to recognize, what if it doesn't work? What if I'm disappointed? What if God isn't big enough?
Well, he is big, and He's big enough. And never underestimate your sphere of influence that you have. each and every one of you.
That's good.
And your dreams, and when you know that God has given you a dream, when you're dreaming and you're aspiring to do something, this is what you have to do also. You have to start doing things that model that and word it. If say, I'll use my example. When I was, people were telling me, okay, you'd make a good officer.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, I got to talk to my wife. I got to pray about this. I don't know about that. I got to pray. When I started doing that, and while I was doing that, guess what else I did? I started reading books and talking to people in the field. I have brother-in-laws that are police officers as well. Started talking to them, started reading books and looking. And so what I'm telling the audience here is that when you have a dream, when you have something, do something to prepare, study, and get proficient in what that calling and things, whatever it is that you're dreaming. Things are not, the as the old adage say, the pie is not going to fall out of the sky. You have to do something. When God puts that dream and that places that dream inside you, and you have as you just use the word, you have a passion for it, then it's incumbent upon us to take that and begin to nurture and study and build and take that initiative and until we see it come into fruition.
Yes.
Yeah.
I did a whole podcast yesterday on, it was called Procrastination, the Dream Killer.
Yeah.
It's the biggest one, isn't it?
It is. It is.
Because we think, okay, I'll get around to that one of these days, you know.
Always
you want
tomorrow.
me to do it right now? Really?
Yeah, always tomorrow. It's always tomorrow. But again, you do those things that you can do, and you're not trying to manufacture something away from God. God has placed the seed, the dream, and the seed, and you're praying. But while you're praying, while you're waiting, you can equip yourself for whatever. Maybe it may be sales or something. Well, get proficient and learn and study what makes successful salesman, whatever it is. It could be a mechanic, I know, but it says start getting books and study. And we have so many resources that are available to us through YouTube and different media, social media outlets, that we can learn that is ready. Man, to give you an example, one night my television was out, right, and it had a thing that was wrong with it, and I could order the part on Amazon, right, and I did. But to do it, you had to take the whole thing apart. And wires everywhere, and so I got on YouTube, the instructions, and I just followed and paused and followed and paused, and when I got everything back together and plugged it in, Denise went out of the room. I said, "Wait!" I said, "Where are you going?" She said, "You're gonna blow up." I said, "No, it's not gonna blow up." But and I had never done anything like that before.
Yeah.
But to show that we have I say that to say, man, look at the resources that we have.
Yes.
That's available to us. That you can be whatever you want to be, but it won't happen automatically. You got to put in the time, and if you have a passion for it, it's incumbent upon us to look at resources to see how we can get proficient in those areas.
Absolutely. And move,
man.
Move ahead.
Yeah.
So, one of the biggest difficulties I think that all of us have, James, is that we never see ourselves the way God does. God looks at us and he sees potential.
Come on.
I look at myself and I see limitations, and sometimes my limitations keep my potential from happening. Did you ever feel that way?
Sure. And as a quote from Dr. Miles Monroe, that he says the greatest resource that we have is not at Fort Knox or in the diamond mines of Africa. The greatest resources we have are in the graveyard, because in our graveyards there's so much potential that never came to fruition.
Yeah.
Came to fruition.
Yeah.
because they didn't step out. They didn't take the initiative to move, as you say.
They didn't take
And
the
so,
chance.
untapped potential, because the potential is there, but unrealized dreams are in the cemetery. Untapped potential is in the cemetery. Great resources that, and I get what he's saying,
Yep.
because people fear hampers a lot of dreams.
Absolutely.
And the scripture says that God has not given us a spirit of fear, but a power, of love, and of sound mind.
That's right.
And he wants us to go, if he put the dream within us and gave us the ability, he gives the ability to dream. And as you opened up with, his dream and desire is greater than ours anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so
what would you say to somebody who feels stuck? Because, there are a lot of people watching right now who say, I've had this dream to be this, to do this. And I've sat on it for years now, and it just doesn't seem like it's ever going to happen.
Yeah. First of all, go to it in prayer. Pray and seek the, no, don't be afraid to ask God for discernment, for revelation, for illumination in things, and
That's
ask
good.
him. And he will reveal, and God will reveal and show you. And because God is not a God of being stuck.
Yeah.
God is always moving. God is always, he's busy, man. He has a whole universe to deal with. And even in the vastness of the universe, he cares about each and every one of us.
That's awesome.
Individually. And so we're not lost. You're not lost in his sight. He's still, in the vastness of his universe, he's still intentional about you and
That's
has
so
a work
good.
for you.
Yes.
And he has a work for me. And what he has for you, nobody can do that. And if you leave and you perish, and now you're in the graveyard, you're like one of the things that Dr. Monroe said.
Yeah.
Just untapped potential, vast resource that has gone away, unmet dreams, unlived dreams. And so, one, don't fear. Two is pray and seek God. And then thirdly, get busy. Jesus says in his word, get unstuck. Jesus says, occupy till I come. Do business, be busy until I come.
Absolutely.
In his word. And so, some people think that it's just going to happen automatically. No, it won't happen automatically. God gives us giftings and our dreams and everything, but then we have to do something and take that and move and operate and let it flow. Yeah. And it's by his direction.
And how important do you think it is to realize that even when I feel stuck, God isn't stuck?
God isn't stuck. No. And understand that everything of God, there's an enemy that's trying to counter and stop and block what God said. And we know that to be the devil, Satan,
Steal,
the
kill, and
enemy.
destroy.
Yeah, he comes to steal, kill, but Christ said, I'm coming that you may have life and that you may have it in an abundant way. And so he's given and he equips us. He doesn't call us to something that he doesn't equip us for. And so God equips us.
Yes.
Yes. So
Say that again.
yeah, he doesn't call us to something he doesn't equip us for. So the dream that he puts inside you, he's already beginning the equipping process as well.
Did you catch that? Because that probably is the biggest foundation, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where God guides, he provides.
He provides.
And he's already given you what you need to go forward.
Yes, he is.
That's rich, James.
Man.
That's exciting. And you're not sitting here today as the police chief of this great city by accident.
By accident.
Or just because something fell in your lap and you didn't have something to do with it.
Right. It's, again, when I surrendered my life fully to Christ, God began doing the work. And this is the thing, and I said it oftentimes, God, the way we work Pastor Bob, is that we see something from the beginning and we look at it from the ending. God does it in reverse. God sees the ending of the thing,
I love that.
and then he brings it forth to the beginning of it. God already knows the ending of the thing. And
He knows
so-
what kind of potential you really have.
Yeah, and so he opened the doors, and the doors that he opens, no man can shut. And the doors that he closes, no man can open. So when we surrender ourselves to him fully and begin to just pray and seek him, God opens doors. And when you walk in it, and when you still, while you walking, you're worshiping. You're depending on him. You're asking him to order your steps and everything, and that's what I do as chief of police. Lord, you direct my steps. This is you. It's not about me. I want to walk in your steps, and the scripture says that the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord.
That's perfect.
So,
Well, James and I have been good friends for a while, and we sit at this table every week and have coffee and dream together.
Yeah.
We got a few things up our sleeves,
we
don't
do.
we?
Yes, sir.
And but I love that part, and I love this guy because I know that he has great potential, as I do, and together we can share the things of the Lord, but we can also share the fact that we're blessed to bless, and how can we bless people today? How can we move forward, and how can we be a blessing to other people around us? And that doesn't happen when we get stuck. It happens when we get unstuck.
Come on.
Yeah.
Preach, brother. Yeah.
Well, folks, it's been great to have him here with us today, and
Good to be here.
you got a busy day. You got to get going. He has a few things to do. I don't know why that is. Just running a whole city might be part of that, huh? Yeah.
Hey, but God
James,
is good.
thanks for sitting with us
Oh,
today.
you're welcome, man.
Appreciate
God
it.
bless you.
And thanks for joining me today. Don't forget, you are blessed.
Yes, sir.
So go and be a blessing.
Yeah.